Did you hear that?
And hello, everybody. Welcome to Haunting Live podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. We have reached episode number 17 of season 2 this week. And again, today we do have a very special guest joining us. She's a medium from out in Manitoba, and she's going to be talking to us today a little bit about her journey through mediumship and what she's done and what she does day to day as a medium. And we'll bring her on in a minute. But thank you guys so much for joining us here today on Haunting Live podcast. Hope you're having a great weekend. And thanks so much for following us on social media, on Facebook, for checking out all our posts and all that, what we post up on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Instagram. We also are on all the podcast apps where you can check us out later on if you missed a live show right here on our Facebook page. But today we do have a special guest. Her name is Lisa Scrivens. She is a medium out on Manitoba in Winnipeg, and she is going to be joining us here today. So let's bring in Lisa.
Hello.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Well, thank you very much for joining us here, taking time out of your weekend to talk about your background and what you do as a medium here on Haunting Live podcast. I appreciate you taking your time today.
Yeah, no problem.
No problem at all. So let's start at the beginning. And what drew you into mediumship, and how did you get started in the mediumship field?
Well, I always, when I was a child, used to sense spirit, and I had several paranormal experiences when I was probably between 3 and 7 years old. I was able to see spirit, and so see apparitions. And I was scared about that, but my grandmother is also a medium, and never professionally, but she explained that in our family we're able to see and hear spirit. I didn't ever imagine my life to be a professional medium. I went to university and became a social worker. And as the years went on, my gifts started to become stronger and stronger, especially after I had children, actually. So things kind of went, further. I was able to know more things and sense spirit around me. So in 2012, I was driving in my car, and my deceased grandmother, so she passed away, sat in the seat next to me. And I really felt strongly like she was there. I could feel the warmth of her body. And at that point, she told me that I needed to become a medium and start helping people. And I'm a little bit of a person that needs proof, similar to you guys. I wanted to capture something that would kind of validate the experience that I was having. So I took my iPhone, and I'm like literally driving, and I took it and I just pressed the camera button to see if I could capture anything in the seat. And so it kind of takes like a series of 100 photos at once if you just kind of hold down the button. And so when I got home, I was kind of looking through the photos. I was kind of like blowing up the photos, seeing if I could see any faces or anything in them. And I got to the last photo, and there was like a beam of light, not like an orb, but like an actual beam of light kind of going through the middle of the passenger seat. So it wasn't like coming in through the window. I didn't have a sunroof or anything, so I couldn't really explain it. And it kind of gave me the validation from what I was feeling, that it was time to really do something with what I had. So, in order to honor her, and I felt like she'd given me enough proof, I was going to do this like one day a month, like just to kind of, I guess, appease her. And so I started reading people, and it kind of just grew and grew from there. So, within a year, I kind of had enough people that I could work full time, waiting for a reading. And I also feel like during that experience, she kind of opened, I would say like a portal between here and the other side, where things became even more accurate for me. And so, in 2013, I decided to leave my job as a social worker and just become a medium full time. So I did have some early kind of paranormal experiences. I worked with a company called Haunted Winnipeg. And so that was earlier on in my career. And so we did investigations in different areas of the city.
That sounds interesting. Like,
Mhm.
so your grandmother was more of a guide to you, almost like a spirit guide. Did you feel
Yeah.
that she was connected to you beforehand, or was this something more that she appeared at that time in your life?
I always felt connected to her. And I just felt like in that moment, my life needed to change. And she had anticipated that as well. So,
Do you still feel her around these days? Like, is she still sort of guiding you and helping you along?
absolutely, every day. So, she helps me do the work that I do. She's given me a couple premonitions within, things that are going to happen within my family. Um, I work with her on a daily and weekly basis. So, yeah,
Yeah, it definitely sounds like she's one of your spirit guides for sure, helping you along your journey for mediumship. Um,
absolutely.
so how do you sort of develop your mediumship? How do you work with
Mhm.
it? What do you use? Do you use tarot cards, or do you just use guides and they tell you your direction to go, or how do you
Yeah.
work with it day to day?
So when I first started reading, I would use intuitive cards, and I felt like those were kind of like a good anchor for, the reading. It kind of gave me an impression in the card, and then I would expand from there. But as my mediumship developed, I realized that I didn't need the cards anymore. One thing that I do need, though, is to kind of move during the reading, which is interesting. And if you see, now that I know that about myself, I've watched other mediums, and there's something about like they'll do a repetitive movement as they're reading. And so what I do, because I'm sitting down for my readings, is I do automatic writing. So I just kind of scribble and write as I go. And that the movement helps get the information, and it's kind of like tuning into a radio.
Right, that's interesting. I never heard of that before. I heard of the automatic writing part before, but I haven't heard of
Yeah.
people actually using movement as a part of their
Yeah.
session before. Do you find that it connects you to a higher level sort of when you're moving around? Does it help you connect better to
Hmm.
spirit, or like
Yeah. And
go
so
a bit more in depth about that?
Yeah. And so when I'm doing like a live audience reading, what I notice for myself is I kind of rock back and forth a little bit while I'm doing the reading. And I kind of move my fingers a little bit as I'm walking throughout the audience. So there is that kind of movement. I think it's because energy is moving through me. So it just kind of needs to move in all different directions for it to happen. Before I do any readings and before I do anything in the morning, when I do kind of one-on-one readings, I elevate my vibration through meditation. And so I'm sure you guys have heard before, everything is a vibration, and trying to kind of lift your vibration high enough so that you can meet kind of spirit in the middle, because spirit likes to drop itself and its vibration into the room so that you're more sensitive to it. So with your equipment, you would probably feel it more if they're dropping their energy into the room. And they do the same thing with mediumship. So it's always important to keep my vibration as high as possible when doing my readings, for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely meditation can help people connect to a higher level. Have you noticed
Absolutely.
lately? I've been asking this to a bunch of different guests that we've had on, especially the last several guests, um, that they've sensed a different shift in people's energy lately, more because everybody's at home, they're more concentrated on what they're doing as a task. Do you feel
Mhm.
that we, as a people, or humanity in general, is reaching a higher vibration?
Absolutely. I mean, this is just, my opinion is, a lot of things are happening, and, around the world, like the coronavirus, and, different environmental things that are happening. And it's really calling us to really love one another and love our planet. And I feel like through that love raises our vibration. And so there's been a lot of people that have chose to love our community and love ourselves, and that has increased the vibration of our planet for sure. There's been lots of good people out there.
Yeah, I think the good is definitely outweighing the bad for sure, especially lately with people being more concentrated on certain things.
Mm-hmm.
So day to day then, during this pandemic, speaking of, how do you
Mm-hmm.
deal with that? How do you deal with that at home? Are you finding more time to focus on your mediumship?
Well, I'm doing most of my readings online, so I haven't left my house too much this year. And so a lot of the readings are similar to what we're doing now. They're on Zoom, and I'm able to connect to energy no matter where it is. So even if it's halfway across the world, um, and I've been doing like live group readings on Zoom as well. So we have a couple hundred people that will come together, and I'm able to kind of pick people out of the crowd and give them readings, except it's online. So the neat part about that is I can, like, if there's like, say, two households of family members, I could bring both households up on the screen and we can do a reading, even if they're in two different provinces. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's neat. You can still offer the group readings anytime online, just the same as you would do it in a group setting. So that's kind of cool.
Absolutely. Yeah.
How has that been? Have you had a lot of people asking questions lately about the current situations or what's coming up for them, kind of thing? Or what's been the most topics that you deal with?
Most people just really want to hear from their loved ones. Like they want to know, things about their life, what their loved ones' opinions are. They might want to have some, conversations about unfinished business. They do want to know if their loved ones are leaving them signs that, they are around. And so I'm able to kind of communicate that with them. Um, any signs that spirit has, and spirit tries to leave lots of signs for people, so giving them those things to look for so that they can, outside of the mediumship reading, be able to have validation and proof that they can see and hear and feel for themselves.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are looking for that sort of thing right now, especially these days. So,
Yeah.
can you tell us any experiences that you've had during your development of your mediumship, like anything that would relate to either guides that have helped you along, or
Mhm.
aside from your grandmother appearing to guide you through, can you tell us any more stories or any even paranormal stories you've had related to
Yeah.
working in the
Well,
field?
yeah. Well, like I said, when I first started working as a medium, I had joined Haunted Winnipeg. So that is, they're able to bring like everyday people into haunted locations. And we do like a deep kind of, 3 hour investigation within whatever location that we went to, and then kind of show the guests, what can actually happen using different paranormal tools. It's really neat. Like I found it very fascinating. Um, and a couple of places that I've been, they're kind of famous in Winnipeg. Is I'd mentioned just a little earlier, there's a place called Lower Fort Garry, and it's an old trading post. And so it has lots of different areas, different buildings. They've had lots of activity in those areas. But the one place where I found that I had the most activity is they have a place that they used as like a prison, and then it became an insane asylum after that. And so we did, video, thermal, K2 meters, and there is actually a video out there. It's kind of, I don't know, it's floating around somewhere, where we asked, what is your name? And we caught an EVP where they actually said my name. Like they didn't say their name, but they said my name. And it was like this man's voice that was like, Lisa, like, is very cool. And but the reason that I don't work for them anymore is because after that night, I had what I believe that spirit kind of follow me home. And that's never happened to me before. And I kind of chalk it up to not being as educated on how to make sure that spirits don't kind of attach to you and come home. Like, I was young in that respect. And so the spirit came home and started wreaking havoc in my own house. And I didn't put two and two together right away that it was that spirit. I was like, I just moved into the house, so I thought maybe it was somebody that already lived there at the house. But I would come home every day and my pictures would be taken off my walls and placed onto the floor, like really, like all of them. I would, the last straw was my grandmother's urn was knocked over when I came home one day. And obviously I didn't have any animals. I didn't have anything that could explain, this big heavy urn being knocked over. And so probably one of the last nights that I slept at my house, and I almost left the house. Actually, I was so scared. I heard like a growl in my room, and I didn't have a pet. And so it was quite unsettling. But this whole haunting lasted for about a month. And then, so we got some people in there to kind of clear the space and really direct spirit to not be there anymore. I think before that, I had kind of doubted that a place could be haunted, to be honest with you. Like, I thought we could just interact with these people in these historical situations, and, you know, I didn't really think they could follow me home. And so it was really interesting to me to have this paranormal experience last for that long. So yeah, it was quite the experience. And then after that, I left Haunted Winnipeg. I didn't work there anymore.
Yeah, definitely after an experience like that, I don't think you would want to stick around in that place where you're helping people if a spirit's going to follow you home. Um,
Yeah.
you mentioned that you were a little new to it when you first got into it.
Mhm.
What led you wanting to go into that field if you were so new to it? Like, was there something that drew you to that?
Well, I'm fascinated by physical evidence and scientific evidence for proof in the afterlife. So I really feel, and I still feel this way, that paranormal investigators have an important role to play in really validating and proving that spirit exists. And I'm a little scared to do it again, and I probably won't. But well, maybe if somebody invited me on on an investigation, I might. But I just feel like it's so needed, because I feel like that concrete evidence can, I don't know, help convince people that spirit's real, it exists, and it's trying to interact with us. So I did that on Friday and Saturday nights with this company, and I just felt so lucky to do it because it was just amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, not your everyday person for sure gets to actually experience paranormal activity.
Mhm.
Even if you do experience it, you may not understand what it is. Like,
Yeah, and it's interesting using a medium within the paranormal investigations as well, because I could like feel things and interact with spirit and really, oh, spirit is in the room. This is what the spirit looks like. And then when you're working in historical situations, you can kind of look up the evidence or look up, did this really happen in this place? And so I think it was an interesting mix to bring a medium into it, for sure.
what's the difference then, do you feel, between a paranormal investigator getting evidence or a medium trying to get evidence? Do you think there's a difference between the two, or is it sort of the same thing to you?
Um, I don't think they're the same. I mean, obviously, during readings, I'll be giving some concrete evidence, which is like things that nobody knows. Like, you know, um, it happens every day. So I'll be, talking about things, describing things, even like somebody's tattoo that I can't see, like what it looks like. I'll describe, different pieces of jewelry or special numbers that they had, nicknames that nobody else would know that people have. So those are kind of the evidence stuff that I bring through. And I think that does a really, really good job of people, once they leave the reading, feeling like they really talk to their loved one. But I always am interested in the science behind it. Energy is not created nor destroyed. So where does it go? And, I think getting, even like an EVP recording, something in a thermal camera, something on film itself, like it's just really interesting. And I almost feel like, just by having that and having the mediumship experience, maybe the two together are just a really powerful thing.
Yeah, it is, I think, too, like we're paranormal investigators here ourselves, so we go out to get evidence of the paranormal and capture it on our devices. But you do it the same way, but you do it sort of a little bit differently as a medium. You try to
Yeah.
sort of almost have to prove to people that, yeah, I'm doing this. This is what I do. Do
Yeah.
you feel that way? Do you feel that you have to sort of prove to people more as a
Absolutely.
medium? Is there more evidence that you have to get for people compared to like an investigator?
Yeah. And I think, if you come in open to the reading, the proof and validation will be, what it does is it kind of solidifies the messages. And so usually spirit will give like proof or validation and then a message, and then some more proof and validation and then a message. They kind of sandwich it into the reading. And so the whole reading, you're kind of getting like this information. Like people are just like, what? How could you know that? Nobody knows that. And then, in the paranormal, when you get something, paranormal investigations, you get something, people are the same way. Like, that's amazing. They love to see it. And so there's a real interest in the paranormal and in mediumship to really kind of have that proof. The one thing, though, that I have to say is there are always people that don't believe. Right. It doesn't matter if you have the physical proof, whether you have, this proof that, I bring forth. They always find a way to debunk it, or say that it's not real, or you know um, accuse people of like doctoring photos or whatever. And also, like, that I would have time to look things up, or and so there are people that no matter how much proof you give them, and it can be all the proof in the world, they're still going to be non-believers. But for the average person that's coming to see me, they have some kind of belief in the afterlife, and I still think it's important to give them the proof so that they can feel when they leave that reading that they've actually talked to their loved ones.
Yeah, you made a very good point there too, that even on our side, when we try to get evidence, they keep looking for it, they keep looking for it. But then when you do provide them with evidence, they're always like, well, it's fake or whatever. You did this, or they don't believe it. Like, or they
Mhm.
try to make an excuse or debunk it and say, well, if you get an EVP of something, say for example, and then they say, well, it's just somebody else that was there, or it's just this, or it's just that. Well, you can't argue against evidence that you just got because that's
Mhm.
evidence, obviously, right? So,
Yeah.
you just mentioned too that you have people of different beliefs coming to you that sort of believe in the paranormal or believe in the mediumship stuff, and people that don't. How do you deal with people that don't believe in it? Like, do you have something
Mhm.
that you try to do to help people believe more, or what do you do with that kind of stuff?
I kind of decided years and years ago that it wasn't my job to convince people that the paranormal is real. People can take that evidence and decide for themselves. Um, and, even if they don't believe, I'm okay with that, because I feel like there's lots of different things in my life, or people that have tried to convince me of, a certain frame of thought, or a certain religion, or that kind of thing. And it really doesn't matter what they say to me. Uh, my beliefs are pretty solid. Like, it's not going to change for me. And so if that can happen to me, that can happen to other people. So there are people, no matter, even if the evidence right there, it's for them to decide. And so it really took the pressure off me to say, not everyone's going to believe, and that's okay. just respect the fact that that's not where they're at.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it too. Just have your own belief system, and if they choose to
Mhm.
believe it or not, that's what everybody says, right? On all the shows on TV and all that, they say, "What do you believe?" kind of thing at the end of the show. So it's like
Yeah.
that's sort of what everybody says, I think. So
Yeah.
you can't really please everybody, and there's no point in trying. The ones that can't change their mind, they're not going to change it. So,
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
but the ones that do believe in it are the ones that have the experiences. Another thing that I kind of ask people that come on the show here is nowadays, we're all in lockdown. We're isolating a lot more. We're not getting out as much. Um, you're always at home, kind of thing. So, I think a lot of people are having experiences that they might not have had in the past before because they're at home
Mhm.
more. They're focused on different energies all the time now. What would you say to people that actually are having strange experiences and they don't know what to do with it? What kind of advice would you have for that kind of person?
Hmm. Well, most of the time, the experiences I believe they're having are with their loved ones. So either their guides, or it can be like mom or dad that's passed over, or like another close family member or friend. And I think because they're home more and they're more, within their mind, kind of very meditative too, just being home and not having a lot to do, that it's easier for spirit to kind of step forward and make itself noticed. And the more that you notice spirit, I think the stronger it comes in. So my advice would be, when you feel something like goosebumps, or the hair on the back of your neck stands up, or lights flicker on or off, these things happen to people, is to really just acknowledge spirit and thank it for coming through and thank it for showing you that it's there. And, I did say kind of a scary story at the beginning, but though that is like, out of, I'm talking like, I don't know, 50,000 spirits that I've talked to over the years. Because every reading has, about 7 to 10 people coming through. um, out of that, there's like this 0.05%. It's very, very small percentage of something that would be negative, a negative entity. For the most part, they're just spirits that want to be acknowledged. So I would tell people, don't be scared, acknowledge that they're there, try to figure out who it is, and then start connecting with your loved ones for yourself.
Yeah, that brings us back to what we were first talking about at the first of the show here today, too, is how you sort of develop your mediumship. And that's
Mhm.
about meditation and connecting on a higher level, right? So,
Yeah.
what do you recommend people get into mediumship if they kind of want to connect more and learn about meditation and things like that?
Hmm. I think the thing that I like to teach people is to not be scared, first of all. The second thing is to believe that what you're experiencing is real and true. And I think a lot of people want to dismiss, if they feel like they're having communication with the other side, like, oh, that can't be real. I can't really, get what they're trying to say. And, the average person can still have paranormal experiences. I believe anyone can learn how to talk to the other side, and some people are gifted at it, but everybody has the ability to do that. And so, pre-pandemic, I would teach courses for the everyday person to really connect to their loved ones. And in those courses, I take them through a series of meditations where they can learn how to use their senses, because spirit talks through thought. So they don't necessarily have a voice box. So how they communicate with me is sometimes it's like I'm watching a movie. Sometimes I'm tasting things like favorite foods they've had. Sometimes I'm hearing things like, let's say they were a pilot, I might hear an airplane. And so they're really talking in signs and symbols. So I always tell people this kind of example. If you've ever had a problem and you're just not sure how to fix this problem, and the solution pops into your mind, well, where does it come from? Where does that energy come from? And it's a solution that you've never thought of before. And I think that's spirit helping us. I think spirit tries to communicate with us all the time. And so it's just a matter of having the people recognize when spirit's trying to talk to them. And it's most people are really successful in getting those connections, before the end of the day, having a connection that might be something, spiritual or paranormal, for sure.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have experiences and they don't realize they're actually having one at the time, and they
Yeah.
sort of, like you said, they fluff it off or they ignore it, and they're just oblivious to what's happening, and they're ignoring that situation. Um,
Mhm.
do you feel that people can connect on a more higher level? Like, do you think it's happening a lot more often than people realize?
Absolutely. I feel like we're being guided throughout our days, like through our loved ones. And, they're going to, like, even something is like, you get this feeling like you're driving home and you're like, I don't think I'm going to take that road today, and then you find out when you get home that there was a big accident on that road, or, they're kind of guiding you even through traffic, like something simple as that. Or, you know I think they guide us in our decision makings. They help us get, we all have these gut feelings. I talk about, following your gut feeling, and that's intuition. And I think we all have that. If we meet someone and they're not really, a good person, we might get a feeling in our gut saying, that's not the right person. If we're going through life and, we have a feeling like we need to stop, and the path we're going on isn't right, but we decide to ignore that and keep going, we find out at the end we should have listened to our gut feeling first of all. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe in that as well, that we have intuition in all of us, and we all have that sort of voice inside our head saying, don't do this or don't do that. And that's there for a reason, I think, too. So,
Absolutely.
so how do you deal with those kind of issues day to day? Like, do you have anything that you sort of do for meditation, or do you have anything that you do to help yourself guide you through the day?
Um, so I do like a chakra balancing meditation in the morning, and that's just to kind of like clear and clean, my own self to be able to receive the information. I do like a smudging within my room, that it was a teaching that was passed on to me by an Indigenous elder. Um, and that seems to kind of clean and clear the room. But I also set up kind of energetic boundaries that only spirits that are of my vibration and higher are allowed within the office that I am doing the readings in. So I'm really cautious. So I'm not as young and naive as I was before, that I don't want, anybody's spirits coming through. I just want, if your loved one wants to come through, or a spirit guide, somebody that's, on in the afterlife of a higher vibration, that's the only way you're allowed in my room. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea to do that, to sort of ground yourself before you
Mhm.
do any work for the day in the spiritual world. Because,
Yeah.
like you're mentioning at the first of the show today, that you were kind of green when you got into the field, you started working with the other team and had some experiences with spirits following you home and whatnot. So, do you find that has stopped nowadays? Do you find that spirits more listen to you nowadays?
Yeah, I think spirits are fairly compliant, and just to be aware of, the power that they have. And they don't bother me in my house anymore. I kind of have a no spirits in my house unless they're my family members, because I don't want, if somebody's coming in next week, I don't want their father following me around for the weekend. so, so I have a no spirit in my house rule. So
Yeah, just have a sign on your door say, spirits, stay out.
pretty much, pretty
Yep.
much.
No, that's great that you have that control now over the energy. You're able to say yes or no
Yeah,
and keep them at bay if you don't need them there. So,
yeah,
um, has that
absolutely.
taken a long time to develop, or was that hard for you to develop, or was it something that came gradually?
Some of it was from watching paranormal shows, right? Like I'd watch them and they talk about these boundaries and how they have to listen to you. And I'd be like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do that. And some of it was intuitively, my guides and my angels are saying, if this is what you want, just set up the boundaries and become clear about who's allowed in the room and who's not. And it's kind of like having a dinner party. You don't invite everyone to your dinner party. You don't invite, like, if you're having, your neighbors over, you wouldn't invite your pesky neighbor to come over to your dinner party. So why would you invite a pesky spirit?
Yeah, no, we find that too. In fact, that's something that we try to tell our clients if they are having issues with spirit is treat them like a child, almost like you have to lay down the law and say, these are the rules for you being here. either you're allowed here or you're not allowed in this room or you're not allowed in that room. It sounds weird, but sometimes that's what you have to do. So,
Hmm.
well, anyways, thank you so much, Lisa, for being here with us. I
Yeah,
do
no
appreciate you
problem.
taking your time out this weekend and joining us here on the podcast for Haunting Live.
Yeah.
Before we let you go, is there anything that you've been working on lately that you would like to promote, or just promote your website, or?
Yeah, I mean, you can go on to lisascrivens.com if you want. And if you don't know how to spell that, canadianmedium.com, it all goes to the same place. Um, and there you can sign up for when I'm doing classes. I have two kind of group Skype, or not Skype, Zoom readings that are coming up. One on May 18th and or sorry, May 21st, and one on June 18th. And so you can buy tickets for that, and it's in your own home. The tickets are $27 and it's for your whole household. So it's something to do while you're in lockdown. And it's really interesting. We bring you up on the screen, just kind of like you and I do a reading live for the whole group. So it's quite exciting. So it's an evening with spirit, it's messages. So that's something that's coming up for me.
That's interesting nowadays, eh? Because you can actually still do your group readings, you can still do individual readings with people, but it's just in a little different format. So, like we
Yeah.
are here today, like you said. So, thank you so much, Lisa. I appreciate you being here on Haunting Life Podcast and taking your time out and talking to us about mediumship and how you deal with spirit energy and all that today. So, thank you so much. It's been insightful.
You, yeah, you're very welcome.
Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. Bye bye. And that was Lisa Scrivens. She's out in Manitoba, in Winnipeg, and she took time out to join us here today on Haunted Light Podcast. So we'd like to thank her so much for being here today, talking about her mediumship, what she does as a medium, and how she deals with spirit and energy and all that in her daily life. It was really interesting and insightful to hear what she has to say today. So big thank you to Lisa for joining us all the way out from Manitoba today. But thank you guys also for being here on Haunted Night Podcast. We greatly appreciate you tuning in each and every week. We reached episode number 17 already here in season 2, so things are moving right along. And just to give you guys an idea what we have coming up here on Haunted Live, we do have guest book all the way up into August right now, so look forward to a new and interesting guest each and every week right here on Haunting Live Podcast. And you can watch us live here on Sundays around 4 o'clock. We tune in to the guest around 3:30, and then we go live on our Facebook here. So you can watch the show live, or you can listen in later on our YouTube, or you can go to the podcast apps later on and listen whenever you have time. So we appreciate you guys following us and sharing our work if you can. Help promote us. That would be awesome. We thank you guys for doing so and tuning in each and every week. So before I go today, though, I do want to actually go over a few things that we have going on here at Haunting Live. Last night, Chris and I were just doing a first of a new series that we're going to start doing for the summer of this year. We are going to go into different historical locations around the region and do some live streaming for you guys, get out a little bit, do some investigation work where you want to get out of the house and do some more work. So last night we did our first investigation, and it was at the Dune Cemetery in Kitchener. So we live streamed that here right here on Facebook yesterday. You can also watch the edited version on our YouTube and check out all the evidence that we caught at the cemetery. We caught some EVPs and some anomalies that were on camera, so a really interesting investigation you can check out on YouTube. We have that posted now, so go check that out. Also, coming up this year later on, we do have our first public event for 2021, probably the only public event, the way things are going, but it is still scheduled, and that is Ghost of the Queens 2021. We have our 2-day event, Friday and Saturday night, October 29th and 30th. Tickets are on sale right now on our website under the event tab. If you go there, you can find all the information on that event there. Tickets are $140 for the whole weekend. You get Friday night dinner. You get the talks on Friday night with our special guest that's going to be there. Mary Ann Kennedy, Ghost of Dufferin County and Beyond TV show. She's going to be there to help us out. And then Saturday, you get workshops all day, and you get the investigation and seance at night at the hotel. So it's going to be at the Queen's Inn in Stratford, Ontario. And also, guys, right now we do have a special sale going on our merch page. We just launched a special 50% off store-wide. Everything's on sale on our merch. So if you need anything like crystals or pendulums, any smudging materials, cleansing items. We have all that kind of stuff on our website that you can check out. And everything right now is half off. So go and check out our half off sale. There's no time limit right now. I'm just going to keep that running for a while so you guys can check it out, see what we have on our website. With that, guys, so thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you tuning in each and every week here at Haunting Live, and thank you for taking time out for joining us here. Again, thank you also to Lisa for being the special guest this week. So with that, guys, have a great weekend, and we will see you right back here next week for Haunting Live Podcast.
Did you hear that?